You know that thing where you get an amazing pair of shoes at a really great price and want to tell everyone about it? Yeah, so do we. Here at Designer Shoe Warehouse, we'll give you something to brag about, like the latest styles from brands you love, or the trends everyone's obsessing over, or shoes that make you feel like, well, you. So go ahead, show off a little. Find shoes that get you at prices that get your budget. Head to your DSW store or DSW.com today. DSW, let us surprise you.
Hello, Hellions. It's Margaret here. And we are doing our second deep dive episode. And we are talking about kids who are a little different, for whom parenting advice doesn't exactly fit. And today, specifically, this episode is about when your kids don't fit the mold. And it's so interesting to revisit these episodes that we recorded, a couple of years ago, because my kids are all older, and I am pleased to see how much the things that we were talking about on these episodes have really proved out in my own home. We talk so much on this podcast, because it's the whole point of the podcast, about parenting advice and how to be a better parent and how to be, a parent that's right for your kids. And I think that acknowledging that parenting advice doesn't fit all kids, and that, if we're talking about something like grit, a kid can have a lot of grit, but if they don't have certain other skills, the grit isn't really the differential. And I speak very much as a parent who has kids who don't fit the mold in different ways. It can be really painful, and I think it can feel, on the one hand, we want to fit in with everybody, and not be like, oh, I'm the different warrior, this kind of mom. I just want to be a regular mom like everyone else. But at the same time, I want to hear advice that doesn't seem to just exclude my kid based on who they are fundamentally. And I think sometimes the kind of tweet acceptance is like, oh, my kid's so quirky and your kid's so quirky, when you have a kid who, likes to wear a princess dress while playing baseball, and I have a kid who is screaming at the top of his lungs and crying in the dugout and will not participate at all. I think sometimes for the princess dress wearing mom, that feels similar. Like, oh, we both have kids who are different. And I think for the mom of the kid who seems to really be struggling on a very fundamental level to fit in with the activity, it seems quite different. And so I think these are really useful conversations. And I don't mean to exclude anybody in saying that. I think that these conversations are really about, it's not necessarily a neurodiverse kid. It's not necessarily a kid with physical differences. It can be that all kids don't fit the mold, but I think as we talk about that, we need to explore both ends of the spectrum so that we're also including experiences that are a little bit less adorable and acceptable to people, so that we're talking to parents of all kids. And it's one of the reasons why we do the fresh takes, because we can't speak to every experience. Amy and I have said many times, we both are white women who grew up on the East Coast in Irish Catholic families. We are not that different between the two of us. That being said, we've had a very different experience of parenting. We have a different take on parenting, but I like hearing from experts and from other moms and from books all about what the range of childhood can look like for people, so that we are making an attempt to speak to not just the kids in the fat part of the bell curve and not just the moms in the fat part of the bell curve. And this episode particularly, I think, gets into a lot of specifics about how that can feel as a parent. And there's also some really great advice. One of the things we talk about is Dr. Perri Klass, who is the author of the book Quirky Kids, Understanding and Helping Your Child Who Doesn't Fit In. There'll be links, as always, to everything we talk about. And her talk about that it's not a pivotal moment where you realize that your kid might not fit the mold, that it is the last in a series of moments, that a lot of little bells have been ringing, and then you sort of figure out along the way, like, oh, wait, we're dealing with something quite different here, not just a small deviation. And, listen, I can say as a parent of an older kid that all of my kids have had struggles and all of my kids have not fit the mold in their own ways. There have been times where I thought this is the kid who really doesn't fit, and they have ended up surprising me. And then kids who I think, this kid is right in the fat part of the bell curve, have turned out to be much more off the path than I thought. And so I think it's a problem and a dilemma and a source of joy that is really worth discussing. So I'm glad we're doing this deep dive, and enjoy the episode when your kid doesn't fit the mold.
My marathoning is a not yet.
What fresh hell?
Laughing in the face of motherhood. I don't deal with people who talk to me like I'm an idiot. With Margaret Abels
and Amy Wilson.
I was unclear on my assignment.
A podcast that solves today's parenting dilemmas
so you don't have to. I am a weirdo. Hello, everyone, and welcome to What Fresh Hell? Laughing in the Face of Motherhood. This is Margaret.
And this is Amy. And today we're talking about raising kids who don't fit the mold.
Oh, yes. I was a kid who didn't fit the mold, and I'm raising some kids who don't fit the mold, and so I'm ready to talk this out, Amy.
First, I'd like to start with a mailbag, though, because we have a good mailbag this week.
Mailbag. Not one of our listeners has come through with a mailbag theme song for us.
I'm holding out hope.
It's going to happen any day now.
Sylvia wrote in to say, longtime listener here. This is just a note to say that I used to not understand what Margaret meant by the yelling flu. Then my child turned 3. Now I know. Yours, in sore-throated solidarity, Sylvia.
Sylvia, you can't see me, but I am making the Hunger Games salute to you right now. And the yelling flu is a term that I coined at a certain point, which is the feeling where you're like trying to go to bed and you're like, I think I'm sick. Something's wrong. My throat is scratchy. I have a piercing headache. And then you realize, oh no, it's from yelling at the kids so much that I've injured my throat and given myself a horrible headache. That's the yelling flu. And I am a sufferer. And I will say this is a little bit frozen in amber. Like, before the kids can talk and run and do other things, you don't really get the yelling flu because you're just like, oh, maybe that's your voice all day.
Right.
Then they turn about 3 and you start screaming all day, every day. And then I feel like now my kids are 8, 10, and 12, and I don't suffer anymore from the yelling flu.
Then you have 3 teenagers and they yell at you. They get the yelling flu.
Yeah, you are a receiver.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Yesterday I was getting like in stereo, 2 kids yelling at me. One kid was missing something. Like, where's my shirt? And I had to go into the other kid's room. And then the other kid was like, what are you doing in my room? I was getting yelled at by 2 people at once.
You have the yelling receivers flu.
Yes.
Yeah. My new favorite phrase in my house is, I don't deal with people who talk to me like I'm an idiot. I say it maybe 650 times a day.
I'm going to try that. Copy, paste.
I don't talk to people who speak to me like I'm an idiot.
Yeah.
And I tell you, it works because they usually speak to you like an idiot when they really need something.
Yes.
Because sometimes like this advice is like, well, like, thanks a lot, because they'll just keep yelling at me. But when you do this, because they're usually saying, where are my soccer cleats? I need my laptop cord. And so I just take a beat and I'm like, I can find it, but I'm not going to help you until you speak to me like I'm a human being. It works. And often it's like, fine, where's my laptop cord, Mom? Like, I mean, it's not like they're like, you're right, Mother. What a mistake I've made in addressing you in this way. But at least it brings it down to like, okay, fine, could you help me find the laptop? I mean, they're still like rolling their eyes and despising you with every fiber of their being, but at least they're not targeting me like I'm an idiot.
It's a start.
It's a start.
But that's what happens when you raise kids who don't fit the mold.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think kids who scream at you do fit the mold. That's every kid.
Do fit the mold. That's right. You're right. What am I saying? That's extremely normal behavior.
Yeah. It's pretty much strike over the plate, I would say. But kids who don't fit the mold, we were talking about, what to talk about on today's episode. And we were kind of going back and forth of like, should we do something on like highly sensitive kids? Should we do something on other topics? And I said, I like the kind of, because I feel like on the Facebook page, we've gotten some feedback of like, but what about my kid, who is maybe outside of some of the broader advice that we talk about. And so I like this idea of like, kids that don't fit the mold. It's wide.
Yeah.
It's everything from like, it's everything.
Yeah. We had Debbie Reber on a couple weeks ago to talk about differently wired kids, which is what she calls any kid, maybe who's like non-neurotypical, but this is even wider than that, right? Like this is like, why is my kid the only kid lying down on second base instead of playing Little League, right? Why is my kid the only kid who goes to the playground and plays by herself? Why is my kid the only kid who is a little bit too loud and can't keep his hands to himself? Like it's all of those things.
Yeah. And this is something I want to lean in on a little bit, that I feel like I have a little bit of a pet peeve around this sometimes about people. I feel like everyone wants a weird kid, a unique kid, and that your kid who's like 4 and really into the Rolling Stones is different, doesn't fit the mold in the same way of a kid whose differences and non-mold fittingness make your existence more difficult.
Or the kid's existence more difficult, and therefore your existence more difficult. Because that's what I think is happening here, right?
That's right.
The kid who doesn't fit the mold causes you pain and stress for reasons that we can explore, but it's like you're projecting out into the future and what will happen to this kid that doesn't understand that he's too loud all the time or whatever, that you project things onto that and makes it difficult for you.
Right. And there is a spectrum of this. And I want to say to the moms who are on the end of the spectrum of like, your kid who doesn't fit the mold and therefore doesn't get invited to any birthday parties for 2 years and has no kids come to his for 2 years is different than like, my kid doesn't fit the mold. He really loves old 90s rap or whatever,
yeah,
there's a spectrum of this. And I think sometimes we have to acknowledge that like being a, odd kid or a quirky kid is different than not fitting the mold in a way that makes life more challenging.
Look at my tween's goth outfit, like the kind of thing that you're kind of like trolling for likes on Facebook in a presentational way.
Yes.
That's not what we're talking about, right? We're talking about why is life going to be hard?
Yeah. And like it may come under the umbrella of this, but like I acknowledge that there is a difference between those two things, which is like my kid is so different, Facebook fam, versus like, oh, it can be really hard having a kid who doesn't fit the mold, because as much as you want a unique kid, I mean, it's funny. I was the kind of college kid who was like always like, in bars talking philosophy with friends. Like I was extremely deep, Amy. But I guess every college kid maybe is that college kid. But, I just remember all those conversations that were like, what I want is a life lived at extremes. Like, I want everything to happen. Those kind of, let's think of life in this way that like, we want to have this very exciting life. And the minute I had kids, I was like, I want my life to be as normal as possible.
Hue to the center. Everyone.
It's like the proverb that people say, like, may you live in interesting times. No, thank you. May I live the most uninteresting life ever when it comes to being me with kids. Like and we talked about this with Debbie Reber, that some of the problem is letting go of like, I want everything to be fine.
Right.
That's how I want it to be. I don't want to live on any extremes. I want my kids to be completely fine and normal and happy. And sometimes that leads to like, I'm going to shove my non-mold kid into a box that doesn't fit them. And that is a place where I recognize that I have some problems.
And sometimes the box is a place your kid needs to be, perhaps, and they still don't fit, right? Like second grade or whatever. Like there are,
yes,
you can say, my kid's not a T-ball kid, right? Or I guess, the French horn isn't for us. It's different from when like friendships are hard. And then sometimes that box can exist too. I also think that we can sometimes romanticize a little bit when we're in this situation. It's a coping mechanism, I think, that sometimes works. The whole like the mold is the problem, right?
Yes.
But the world doesn't get my kid fix it world, right?
Yes.
Albert Einstein's teacher said he was incorrigible. Like, yeah, that's true. And that is helpful when you have a kid that doesn't fit the mold, that like the world is wider than second grade. And so it's going to be okay. The non-mold fitting kid will find their way. But we can also kind of overly romanticize, I think, like, you don't get my kid, get out of the way because my kid is different.
I hear you. I absolutely hear you. And I think that, we're going to swing back and forth between these two ideas the whole time. Like, when is it our job to try to be like, kid, we're going to figure out this box and get inside of it? And when is it our job to be like, world, take a seat? It's not happening with my kid in this box. And I think that that's the journey of having a kid who doesn't fit the mold, is figuring out what are the right moments for that, because this is a big part of our jobs, no matter what kind of kids we have, that like we are adapting our kids into society. That's a big part of it. You can't take a kid to a restaurant who's running around and grabbing food off of other people's plates. So like it's part of your job when you have a 2 and a 3-year-old to say, you have to sit here, or maybe we're not going to a restaurant, which is my suggestion.
Right.
But yes, like socializing our children is part of our job. But when we have kids who are outside of the norm in whatever way, that can be challenging. I'm going to give a shout out, as I've done before, to this amazing book called Far from the Tree.
Oh, yes. Andrew Solomon.
Oh, this book changed my life. It's so beautifully done. It gave me such an interesting perspective.
I'll put the link in the show notes, guys.
Maybe 700 pages long. It's huge.
Yeah. It's a commitment. It's a summer's commitment.
But it's also the kind of book that like it's in chapters, truly. And the idea is the expression, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. And so the thesis of this book is examining families where the apple has fallen far from the tree. What is he? Now I can't think of it, but it's like vertical connection, which is, your kid looks like you, they act like you, they remind you of you when you were a kid. And then that there's this horizontal line where kids who have any kind of otherness from their family, such as in the book, transgender, even gay, I think, LGBTQ, Yeah,
in other words, when your kid is trans, LGBTQ and all that, and you're not.
Right. So that you have they have a horizontal world that you overlap with, but like there is an outside piece that you are outside of. You are not what they are.
Yeah.
And what's great about it is like this book is so insightful for just every kid has this. Every kid has a lot of things that are outside of what we are. But it really hits on this idea of kids who don't fit the mold. I loved it.
There are also other kinds of molds. As I was sort of researching what people are saying about this topic for this episode, I came on stuff like a Mormon mom whose son won't cut his hair. And it's like his hair is, long, maybe not long for the world, but long for the LDS world, and dealing with people always telling this kid that he needs to cut his hair, and he actually has long hair because his ears are too big, and like he doesn't fit the mold in that specific way in that culture. Or I found a fascinating video, I'll put the link in the show notes, of Asian American kids talking about what it's like to be an Asian American kid who's not particularly interested in STEM, who's maybe not at the top of their class, who is good at sports, and playing against the mold that the world has for kids who look like them. Made me realize, because I was thinking there are very general molds, like can you sit still in class or not, that are kind of applied to all of us. And then there are these sort of smaller cultural molds that our kids may or may not fit into.
Yeah. And within the familial mold, Amy, I feel we have reached a musical theater reference point here.
Oh boy, exciting. Yes.
Of course, it is the musical I was in high school, Fiddler on the Roof. This is the plot of the whole musical, right? He has 3 daughters and he's like, this is how we live. These are our traditions. Tradition.
We do not fall far from the tree in this village.
Right. Like and that each daughter challenges those traditions, and each time he bends, and then the third daughter, he's like, I can't bend this far. Everything I know breaks if I go this far. And that story and that idea of like, what molds do we say? Like, no, this mold must stand. Interesting.
Yeah. It makes me wonder, as we approach this topic, whether the biggest problem with our kid not fitting the mold isn't the parental reaction to it, right? The pain, the hurt, the misunderstanding, the gap between how you thought things would be and the way things are. I have a psychologist's approach to that. Can we talk about that when we come back? Hellions, it's time for some spring cleaning, and I don't just mean the coat closets. Doing your financial spring cleaning can actually be super easy when you let Monarch do your financial spring cleaning for you. One dashboard that gets your entire financial life organized. No more clutter, no more mess, no more logins scattered everywhere, just accounts, investments, property, and more, all in one place. Get your first year of Monarch for half off, just $50 with promo code FRESH. Monarch allows you to look not only at what you've already spent, but also to plan for the future. With Monarch, you can set savings goals, plan for big purchases, and notice spending trends before they become a problem. I can generate cash flow reports that show me what we spent this quarter, this month, what we're probably going to spend next month, and feel prepared, organized, and knowing how to plan for the future. No more surprises and a lot more clarity. Try Monarch. Use code FRESH at monarch.com to get your first year half off at just $50. That's 50% off your first year at monarch.com with code FRESH. All my kids learned to swim when they were little. It was super important to me that they be confident and safe in the water. There was only one problem with that: taking them to swim lessons. I mean, the pools were freezing. There were always cranky adults doing laps right there. And it was definitely not, for any of us, what you would call fun.
Amy, heard. But now there's Goldfish Swim School. Goldfish takes a really thoughtful approach to swim lessons, combining research-based teaching with a warm, kid-friendly environment that actually helps kids thrive in the water.
Every detail at Goldfish is thoughtfully designed to create a golden experience, from shiver-free, warm indoor pools to comfy waiting areas for parents to professionally trained lifeguards on deck.
Goldfish uses an approach called the science of swim play, which combines guided play with proven teaching techniques to help kids learn to swim, build water safety skills, and gain confidence, all at their own pace. Lessons are designed to meet kids exactly where they're at.
If you've been thinking about swim lessons or just wondering where to start, this is a great opportunity. Right now, Goldfish Swim School is offering a waived membership plus your child's first lesson free at participating locations.
Just visit goldfishswimschool.com/free to find a location near you and enroll using promo code FREE.
That's goldfishswimschool.com/free, promo code FREE.
Amy, when I'm having a good hair day, it usually makes my whole day better. And that's why on every day, I'm taking Nutrafol.
Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist-recommended hair growth supplement brand. And it's the #1 hair growth supplement brand personally used by dermatologists. Nutrafol's hair growth supplements are peer-reviewed, NSF certified for sport, and clinically tested.
Nutrafol offers multiple formulas for men and women, tailored to different life stages and lifestyle factors, so you get support that's actually right for you. Adding Nutrafol to your daily routine is easy. Order online, no prescription needed, with automated deliveries and free shipping to keep you on track.
Let your hair be one less thing to worry about. See visibly thicker, stronger, faster-growing hair in 3 to 6 months with Nutrafol.
For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering our listeners $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you visit Nutrafol.com and enter promo code LAUGHING.
That's Nutrafol.com, spelled Nutrafol.com, promo code LAUGHING.
Okay, Amy, we're back. Lay some psychology on me.
Okay, Dr. Perri Klass. She's the author of the book Quirky Kids, Understanding and Helping Your Child Who Doesn't Fit In. I'll put the link to that book in the show notes too. She talks about in this book something that's called the pivotal moment. And it's a pivotal moment for the parent of a quirky kid, her term for a kid who doesn't fit the mold. She says, the pivotal moment is not just one moment of extreme behavior in your kid, but it's the last in a series of impossible to explain away behavior that resonates with the parent's long considered and long avoided fears. It crystallizes in a parent's mind all the floating anxieties and worries of many months. That moment that you're like, yes, there's something up here. My kid does not fit the mold, and I can't sort of pretend that that's not true any longer.
I get it.
Yeah, I've been there, right? I've had that.
Yeah, I get it. It's about facing reality. This is about what we were talking about with Debbie Reber a little bit, which is there's a difference. I think we're a little bit like wide on our topic here. There's a difference between like, I expect my child to follow my religion to a T. That's not going to happen, guys. They're going to go outside of it. And I am concerned that my child is not neurotypical, and like the signs of that are freaking me out. They're different things.
That's true.
One is your work to do, I think, a little bit. And like, listen, you can set out a path for your kids and keep them on it to a certain degree and allow them to wander and let them come back to it. But maybe you have to let go of, like, I wanted my kid to be the star athlete and he turns out to be really into, watercolor painting. That's kind of dismissible to me. But this thing that you're saying is like, I wanted, and maybe it is the same thing. It's that creeping dread of like, you throw the football at him 400 times and the day where like it hits him in the face and he starts crying and goes in to do watercolor is this pivotal moment where you're like, oh, this is never going to happen.
Oh, right. And it's the gap. Like she argues in the book, the gap is the issue, right? That your kid is highly sensitive and like hates tags and clothing and doesn't like to be touched or whatever. Like that's fine. But it's the ways that comes out, the challenges that come out when the world has different expectations. That's the problem. You see what I'm saying?
Well, yes, but it's also, like you said, it's not just that the world has expectations. Like when you have a kid, you can't take anywhere because they cry the whole time.
Right.
That's not just like, oh, well, if only the world would relax. It's an actual problem, right? My sister-in-law, Christina, who was recently on the podcast, she said to me when I was dealing with this issue in my own life, she said to me this advice just nailed it for me. And I still think about it with all my kids. I was talking about a kid who was dealing with a specific kind of issue and possibly facing a diagnosis. And I was freaking out about it. And she said, it's not a problem until it's a problem for you. It's never a problem because it's someone else's problem. So if you're like, I'm embarrassed that my mom thinks that my kid is too whiny, that's not your kid's problem. But my kid cannot participate in any activities because he is too sensitive and spends the whole time crying. That is your problem. That is something you may have to address. You may not be able to fix it, but it's not a problem until it's a problem for you or for your kid. And even more so for your kid.
It's the pivotal moment, right? When you realize like, oh, maybe my wishing this isn't something that separates them from the main, or that isn't enough.
Correct.
I have an approach. Dana Basu, she's a psychologist. She talks about how to approach this when your kid doesn't fit the mold. And it was sort of a two-part approach. And the first part reminds me of something you have said many times. She says, the first thing you have to do when you have a kid that doesn't fit the mold is pinpoint what that means. Like they yell a lot when we go places. Like, okay, why? Mm-hmm. For some parents, this is very easy. My child has a diagnosis. They're on the spectrum. But if you don't yet know why your child is different, she says, see if you can isolate when this difference shows up, how it manifests, identify what separates your kid from others.
Yep.
And I think it's generally a thing that we spend a lot of time running from first as parents because of the feelings it arouses in us, right? But this is the part that reminds me of you. You've talked about having these dreams that a monster was chasing you.
Yes.
And you got rid of the dream. I'll let you tell the story.
Well, just that when I was, even from childhood, but I still do this. When I'm dreaming that I'm being chased by a monster, often I'll have a moment of consciousness kind of where I'm like, oh, it's a dream. And then I turn around, and the second I turn around to look at the monster, I wake up. Like it's just facing the thing makes it not real anymore. And man, if that isn't the biggest truism of my whole life, things get exponentially larger when you try to not think about them or bury them. And I give this advice to my kids all the time. I had a kid who was absolutely terrified of Momo. Do you remember Momo?
Oh, yes.
The chicken lady thing that was supposed to attack you on YouTube.
Yeah, and we were all supposed to be worried about that. It was going to get our kids on YouTube. I don't know, like in Poltergeist, like sucking them in the TV. I don't know.
Yeah, it was a whole thing.
I was unclear on my assignment.
Yeah, it was a problem, Momo. But I had a kid who was terrified of Momo. And every night at bed, it was, oh my God, Momo, Momo, Momo. And I was like, you know what? We're going to pull out the computer in the daytime, like not right before bed, but like during the day. And we're going to look at Momo together and really stare this Momo thing down. And he was like, I don't think I can. And I was like, let's do it. And we pulled up a picture of Momo and he was freaking out. And then we were kind of starting laughing about like, oh, it's part chicken. I didn't really realize that. And like, it's a terrifying thing, Momo. And then at bedtime, I often say, and I have one kid who's like, that doesn't work for me at home, Mom. That's horrible advice. But I often say to this kid who was scared of Momo, like, if you're scared of Momo at night, think more about Momo. Don't try to not think about Momo. Picture it, think to yourself, like, what's scary about this to me? And then break it down. And then, because you're 10 times scareder of Momo because you're like, I'm going to think about Momo.
Right.
And then when you think about Momo, I mean, it's a chicken lady. Okay.
Right.
I get it.
Right. So get really curious about it, right? Like look more closely, really try to pinpoint what's going on because, you know, it might lead you to tests and occupational therapy and stuff, or it might just lead you to being able to find other people who have kids like this, which is part 2 of what Dr. Dana Bazoo suggests. So the first one is pinpoint at what makes your child different, get really clear about exactly what it is, and then find others who can relate to your experience. It's incredibly lonely when you think my kid is this outlier in this way and my kid is not going to be invited to birthday parties and therefore, you know, X, Y, Z, lonely life, right? And then that's very isolating for you as a parent. But once you get very clear about what's going on, then you can find your community.
Yeah, that's my mom's most useful phrase, catastrophizing. That like you sit there and you're like, but if this. And the fact is nothing about your child changes. None of this changes anything about your actual reality. Nothing can change that.
That's a good point.
It doesn't. If somebody says like your child has autism, your child has ODD, your child has whatever the diagnosis happens to be, nothing about your kid changes, right? You're just understanding it more. You're just looking and staring at it and being curious about it. And the fear is that sometimes I think that like, well, if I hear a word associated with my child that I think of as negative, that child gets like sucked away from me. Nothing about your kid changes.
In a way, the diagnosis is the beginning of the good part, right? Because once you understand, when you get a diagnosis from your kid, like the wondering stops and the helping starts, you can get more direct about it and get yourself more support. If you, as a parent of a kid who doesn't fit the mold, feel like you can't talk to anybody about this, that there's shame, there's fear, once you get rid of that stuff, you're going to find somebody else whose kid has a auditory processing disorder or whatever. Like these things are controllable once you understand what you're dealing with.
And you're also, we're talking about diagnoses. I have long had a dream that my daughter will play the French horn because we have French horn players in the family.
Oh my God, I said French horn before, but was I like picking up on that? This is real?
You must have. You don't fit in the box because you're psychic.
But you really have a French horn hope for your daughter.
I don't know why. My niece is a beautiful French horn player, plays in symphonies at her college and school. And I love the sound of the French horn. I think it's such a beautiful physical instrument. And so I've long been like, you're going to play the French horn. And of course, now my daughter is about to take up an instrument, 3rd, 4th grade. And she's like, no, I don't want to play the French horn. And she wants to play something goofy. I can't remember what it is. I don't know. Anyway, something I'm not into. That's this too. Like your mold is like I have to sit down and be like, what is the level of importance of this in my life? Listen, it's a lot easier to let go of the French horn than the dream that your kid is ever going to walk.
Right.
I get it. They're not the same choice. And I'm not saying they are.
They're not the same.
But I don't want us to only be like, this is about getting a non-neurotypical diagnosis for a kid. This is about like, I mean, the Project Runway for me is the ultimate version of this. You see all these incredible artists making these beautiful gowns, like something that 0.00001% of people in the world can do, which is like, here's my idea, like make a floral theme. And they make a beautiful outfit. And almost always as they talk and you meet their families at some point in the show, there's always 2 or 3 people whose family, probably because they were gay, kind of rejected them, you know, or doesn't speak to them anymore. And I just think like you were so busy focused on goal A that you missed the fact that you have the rarest treasure in your house. And that's to me, like, that's the key of this mold thing. And I don't dismiss that like an incredible talent is different than something that you find to be a more challenging, like a physical difference of whatever. But parent the kid you have, as Amy always says. I mean, don't miss the treasure for wishing you were on a different island.
Right. What aren't different in either of those cases is the work that you have to do.
Right.
Dawn Davenport, another psychologist, she says our fears as parents, when our kids don't fit the mold, are based on what our kids are like right now, projecting into the future.
Catastrophizing. Yeah.
We are catastrophizing about 2032, the year 2032. I mean, about like right now.
But if they can't sit still, how will they ever get married? You're right.
Right. It's not useful, and it's also not accurate information because your kid will, of course, grow, mature, change. Even if that trajectory is a lot different for your kid than other kids, there is a trajectory. And so, yeah, it's not useful for us to worry about, like, how will they make friends when they're 25? Like, that's not useful. And then the other thing is, she said, also, we adapt and grow as our kids grow. We understand them better. We are also more resilient and adaptable. We also change. And so when we're projecting into the future, we're imagining our kid stuck in the now and our feelings about it also stuck in the now. Both of those things are going to change.
Right, right. Gosh, is that the example of like how things have changed for in many places with, you know, Dan Levy, right?
Yeah.
From Schitt's Creek. His mom famously tweeted the night of the show's finale, like, I think of all the times I sat worrying about this twirling boy who like did not fit into the world. And like here he is changing the world, you know?
He's twirling, yep.
And that, you know, she had a gay kid in the I don't know how old he is, early 1990s, 80s, whatever, and felt like this kid isn't going to survive the world. And like, God, the world that he met and challenged and that then met him, it's like you wouldn't have changed it for the world. Again, a little facile, I feel like, for people who are dealing with more difficult and intractable problems.
Right.
I want to come back and center the kids in this a little bit, Amy.
Okay.
Amy, let me tell you about a magical place that is so exactly designed to be enclosed space, year-round fun for the whole family that I bet you already know what I'm going to say before I even say the name. Let's say it together on 3. 1, 2, 3. Great Wolf Lodge. You got it, Amy.
My kids loved Great Wolf Lodge when we went. You probably already know that it has a huge indoor water park with a wave pool, lazy river, a bunch of massive water slides. But then your pack can hit the other attractions because wait, there's more.
Great Wolf Lodge has adventure-packed attractions like Magi Quest, a live-action game kids can play throughout the lodge, plus the Northern Lights Arcade. Spent some quality time there, so your kid who loves the lazy river and your kid who loves fantasy games will both have a great time.
Great Wolf Lodge also offers great dining options and complimentary daily events like nightly dance parties, all under one roof. Unpack the car once and you're settled in to have fun. And with 22 lodges across the country, you're always a short drive away from adventure.
We've both had such great times at Great Wolf Lodge, so bring your pack together at a lodge near you. Learn more at greatwolf.com and strengthen the pack.
My favorite skincare products actually feel more like self-care, like they're so nice to put on and they smell so good that I'm actually happy when I get to that part of my day. And I swear that is how I feel about Osea's anti-aging body balm.
Amy, you are usually the lotions and potions queen on this podcast, but I have to say, hard agree.
Osea's anti-aging body balm is a liquid silk body balm that combines the lasting hydration of a lotion with the firming power of a serum, leaving skin smoother and firmer.
This body balm is clinically tested and designed to deliver visible results you can see and feel.
So we've gotten to use this product for a couple of months now, and I swear I have really noticed firmer and smoother skin, like on the back of my hands. It's like getting a mini spa treatment from head to toe.
Get a spring-worthy glow with clean, clinically tested skincare from Osea. And right now, we have a special discount just for our listeners.
Get 10% off your first order site-wide with code FRESH at OseaMalibu.com.
That's 10% off your first order with code FRESH at OSEAMalibu.com. And now, what we say about our quirky kids versus what we mean about our quirky kids.
From the What Fresh Hell podcast, we say,
he's a handful, this one.
We mean,
he's a biter. I wouldn't get too close if you're attached to your fingers. We say,
he loves to do a deep dive into things.
We mean,
if you want to know 8,500 facts about the solar system delivered rapid fire directly into your face for 1 hour straight, my kid is your guy. We say,
he's so spirited.
We mean,
I get a lot of calls from the principal's office. I mean a lot. Like we're on a first name basis. We say,
She's such an individual.
We mean,
Yes, she will be dressed as Darth Vader throughout soccer practice. That's the only way it's going to happen, so that's the way it's going to be, people. We say,
I wouldn't change a thing.
we mean.
I wouldn't change a thing.
This has been what we say about our quirky kids versus what we mean about our quirky kids.
From the What Fresh Hell podcast. Amy, I want to come back with this quote from greatschools.org, how to support your unique, quirky child. This question really resonated with me. Is it okay for your daughter to sit alone at the playground having an invisible tea party, or for your son to wear his pajama bottoms around his head in the house? That depends on a few things. Number one, is your child happy? Number two, does your child like who he is? That's the heart of it. But I think there's a part two of is your child happy? And there's a little bit of like, is your child happy for the right reasons? If your child is unhappy because all of the kids in 7th grade have a very specific kind of genes. I'm speaking from personal experience as a child, Amy. I'm going to bring up some deep stuff.
If child X,
Everybody in the school is wearing Jordache jeans and your mom won't let you have them. I'm unhappy because I want to fit in with mean kids who will never like me. And so I think, is your child happy can be a little bit of a more complicated question.
sure. But if your child is happy, I'm thinking of an example from my own life. One of my kids, we were at a wedding, and the band started playing while everybody was eating their salad. And one of my kids took right to the dance floor. Nobody else was dancing yet. And my kid was dancing around out there by themselves, which if it's adorable, cute dancing, then everybody gets out their phones and isn't this cute and ignoring it. It was kind of it was dancing that was taking up a lot of room, maybe not.
It was unsightly dancing. Let's just call it what it was.
Yeah, it was a little weird, this dancing. It was a little weird. And I definitely recognized in myself sitting at the table looking like I had this urge. I actually wrote about this in my book, this moment where I had this urge to go out there and sort of render it adorable, pick the kid up and swing them around, twirl, make it cute.
Right.
Make it acceptable instead of, let the kid dance. And I didn't because I recognized it in myself. Now, look, if the kid was bumping into people, it would be different. This kid was bothering nobody. This kid was happy. This kid liked who this kid was. And it was a moment that was only a problem because I wished it were cuter, because I wished it fit the mold. Do you see what I'm saying? And yep, so that's what I thought of. And I read this quote that sometimes the problem is that we have a problem with it. And if the kid is happy playing by herself at the playground, then maybe it's okay. You can chase this and look at it and explore it, and there might not be a disorder or a debilitating imbalance, as greatschools.org puts it. There might not be an answer. It might just be a quirk.
There might not be an answer, but I think that I'm going to go with a strong theory here. I believe that one of the fundamentals about being happy is living closest to the truth. That to me is real happiness. And so for my kids who don't fit the mold in different ways, I often have the conversation, well, I'm dumb. You're not dumb, but you have a lot more trouble than other kids concentrating. And that makes you feel dumb. It's not the same as being dumb, but you do have an issue that keeps you from being a stellar student in the way that you want to be. And so let's strategize around that and fix it. My kids are 8, 10, and 12. This is a lot different when you've got really, really little kids. I am a weirdo. So you have something going on with you that makes you quite different than other kids. And that makes you feel weird, And in some ways, you probably are weird to other kids, but there's a lot of great things about that. There's a lot of hard things about that. I think that the more that you can discuss ages and stages, you're not doing this with a 3-year-old, but the more that you can discuss weirdness. I mean, I have one kid whose whole identity is being weird. That's what this kid is into. Oh, I'm so different and I love being different and I do my hair in different ways and I wear different things and it's a huge part of her identity. But we've even had conversations around that, which is yes, that is a weirdness that the other kids in your school are into. And so that's different than being weird in a way that you don't have control over. That's different in being weird in a way that is not appealing to other kids. And I think that bringing some truth into this whole thing is very, very helpful.
Here's what I think is the main takeaway that I got from working on all of this, that, as you say, whether it's like my kid likes to wear clothes that I think are a little weird, or, you know, my kid has a language delay that's preventing them from communicating clearly. These differences in our kids require a response from us, but they don't necessarily require a fix ever, or certainly not from us. Like, we don't have to fix them. We have to respond to them, because that they exist is fine. The difficulties are going to be when the expectations of the world create a gap.
Absolutely. You can't shape the world to meet your kid. You can. But I like that Debbie Reber's perspective of like, I'm going to fight every day to make the world wide enough for my kid. That means something to me.
I was just thinking how lucky your kid is, or my kid, or anybody you can talk to, but like, yes, you learn differently. And this is the way your mind works, that we are raising our kids in an age where there's names for these things. And there's not just sort of shame and keep it down and everybody act regular, guys, right? That there is room for this, but that room comes from, you know, turning around and facing at what it is you're running from, right? And having names for it.
That's right.
There are techniques, there are approaches, there are not fixes, but there are responses that are possible when you give it a name.
Yeah. And I think that it's difficult for people. I think, you know, in our world right now, everybody's a little bit like, well, what am I'm supposed to say this. I'm supposed to know this. I'm supposed to, like, most people are just asking you to widen your horizon a little bit to fit someone they love in it, you know? And I mean, I think that that's a pretty easy, it's not an easy ask, but I think it's a worthwhile ask. And I think that helping our kids who don't fit the mold find that perspective and find that, you know, when you deal in IEPs and such things, it's always like, this is a strength and this is an area of, it's not even an area of improvement, but like
a developing.
Yeah, this is a developing skill. That's right. This is a developing skill, you know?
It's not a no, it's a not yet.
It's a not yet. And I think that, you know, at 50, maybe you can say it's a never, you know, and that's fine. Like, there's a couple things, you know, my bikini modeling career is a never, unfortunately, at this point.
My marathoning is a not yet.
Yeah.
Wherever.
That's a checked for me. But I think that that's a good perspective for kids too, is like, hey, this is an area of strength and this is something you're still working on. And that even if those things, I think with kids who don't fit the mold, those social things can be complicated and difficult, right? Like,
yeah,
well, people think I'm weird. Well, that's an area you're still developing. It's like learning to talk about things other people are interested in, and I'm talking about kids who are neurodivergent and kids who are just, you know,
a little quirky.
Some kids it comes hard for, a little quirky, or like just a little sensitive. And it's fine. I was a kid. I was always a crier. And it's funny because now as an adult, I'm like dead inside. I don't cry that much, but
right. I don't experience you as a teary person.
No, it's funny. Like, I have cauterized whatever that part of me was and killed it, I guess. But as a kid, that was always my Achilles heel. It's like, I was a crier way too late. You know, I was an 8th grade crier, you know, and it's not a good look. It's definitely not a good look, but things happen for kids at all different ages. And I think that all we can really do for the quirky kids is just keep asking ourselves these questions. Are they happy?
Right.
Do they like who they are?
Yeah, don't get in the way of that. If they are happy and they like who they are, then don't try to render or fix or make it, you know, more palatable to the world. That's not your job.
And if they're unhappy, give them some context around that, about whether or not what's making them unhappy is a constant or a variable, about whether or not what's making them happy is someone else's problem. You know, like, I wasn't happy because I didn't have the right kind of genes. My mom definitely helped me have the perspective of like, that's a useless metric for life. And you might spend a year being unhappy, but these people are shallow monsters. That was a good perspective.
I want to do a whole episode on useless metrics for life. I'm going to write that down.
Oh, useless metrics.
There are a few.
There are a billion of them.
But for now, I think we solved it.
Solved it. Oh, I love a quirky kid, guys. Send me your quirky kids. They're the best. And let me tell you, life is a long, long game.
Yeah.
And the people way ahead in the race in 6th grade are not the quirky kids. And those quirky kids tend to find their way. They really, really do.
With that, we'll talk to you next week.
Thanks for listening.